Good morning, everyone. It is 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 6th. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is one of those great meetings where we get to recognize years of services for the great employees of Wright County. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes. Before we do that, I would like to dispense with the minutes from the previous county board meeting on May 16th, as well as some other ones.
So moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Dietrich.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, May 16th minutes are approved unanimously. Secondly, we have 3 minutes, one from the Committee of the Whole on May 16th, one from the Household Hazardous Waste Tour on May 16th, and then the other one would be the Ways and Means Committee on May 31st. That can be approved collectively or individually.
I'll make that motion to approve all three.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved unanimously. All right, today's agenda, is there any corrections or additions to today's agenda?
I have none, sir.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Shane.
No second.
Second by Commissioner Ketchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved unanimously. Next is today's consent agenda. Anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda?
Mr. Chair. On letter E, number 1, the Wright County Continuity of Operations Plan, just a couple questions.
Okay. And I'm going to move that item down with the presentation. We're going to move the removal of that consent item till after the years of service recognition ceremony.
Mr. Chair, just suggestion, could it go down to the other mitigation plan that's 956?
We can certainly put that as part of Seth's discussion, so we'll make that item number 2 under H. All right.
And I'd make a motion if no one has any other changes to approve the consent agenda with that one realignment.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ketchmark.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, consent agenda approved unanimously with the removal of item E1. All right, now we are at just about right on time here for the timed agenda item for 9:02, the quarter 2 years of service of recognition. We have a good number of employees here today, which I appreciate everyone in attendance and coming forward here to celebrate their commitment to Wright County. Lee?
All right, thank you. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, I always appreciate this time and glad we could have an event a little bit ahead of time to spend some time with those that we're recognizing today, ranging anywhere from 5 years of service up to 30 years. So we have a few things for you. Commissioners will hand out as I read your name, starting off with Josh Thompson from Parks, and I know Brad already grabbed his materials. Mark Stoller from IT. Andrew LeKelt from Highway. Leah Myro from Finance. Leah's here. Gary Peters from the Sheriff's Office. Dallas Odell with the Sheriff's Office. Dina Peterson from Health and Human Services. Thank you. Chad Gaikowski from the Sheriff's Office. Terry Kroll at the Sheriff's Office. Tyler Kroll. Molly Reisler from Health and Human Services. Caitlin Maybust from Health and Human Services. Daisy Blanchett from Health and Human Services. Chastity Jacobson, Health and Human Services. All right, I think that's it. And moving on to our tenure employees, we have Jesse Miller with Court Services and Heather Pomeroy from the Sheriff's Office and Eric Stemper from the Sheriff's Office are our tenure employees. 15 years, we recognize Robin Dorff with Health and Human Services. From the Attorney's Office, Melissa Meering-Paulson. From the Sheriff's Office, Rebecca Workala. From Finance, Lynette Powman. And from the Recorder's Office, Casey Badeau. Right. So our 15-year employees. Now moving on to 20 years of service. We have Wally Peterson from the Assessor's Office.
Wally, we should give you a bronze mushroom or something.
All right. Rebecca Damian from Health and Human Services. And Michelle Richer from Health and Human Services. Patrick O'Malley from the Sheriff's Office. And Jennifer Parpovich from the Attorney's Office. All right, a thank you to our 20-year employees. We have one person to recognize for 25 years of service at this time, and that's Jeremy Baker from the Sheriff's Office. Able to make it. And lastly, with 30 years of service with the Sheriff's Office, we'd like to recognize Terry Strege.
Class of 93.
Congratulations, Terry.
All right. Thank you again to all of our employees. It's always amazing to see so many people in the room. And again, thank you for your service and your hard work over the years. I'm always amazed to see, 15, 20, 30-year employees. It's great to see that we have something great at Wright County that we keep going. So thank you for attending today and being recognized. So.
I think just to add on to that comment, in a labor market such as this right now, when there's a lot of opportunities to work a lot of other places, I really appreciate those that are committed and have put in a number of years here in Wright County. The gratitude that we have for your service is immense, so thank you. So moving on here to today's agenda, we are now on to the, we're running quite ahead here, so better wait on the, give a second here for people to part ways.
Steve, how many years you got on? We might have a cup for you someplace. All right.
All right. I think I'm going to move forward with the 923. I think if it's a non-controversial item and both people are in the room, so we'll move forward with item number C at the 923. So the request, the chair of the board and the county administrator to sign and approve an appointment and oath for Carolyn Bouchon for the assistant Wright County Attorney's Office.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it's a pleasure to officially introduce you to Carol Bashoon, who joined my office the day after Memorial Day, having come from administration where she was the records retention specialist. I just got to tell you a little bit about Carol. This was kind of a formality that Carol was going to get this position because she was doing some legal type work in administration, and we thought she should be within our office, as it's my job, obviously, to advise the County Board of Commissioners and the other offices of the county on legal matters. So we went before a subcommittee of personnel to talk about Carol joining our office. And she did have to go through the application process because of our collective bargaining agreement with our assistants. Carol was the only applicant. She would have been the most qualified applicant no matter who applied. So we had to put her through just a simple interview. And our first question was, walk us through your resume. And I'm not kidding, I think it took 28 minutes for Carol to walk us through her resume. I was like looking at my watch, I gotta go to court here. She's really done some great things in her career. I mean, it's outstanding. We've been attorneys basically the same amount of years, both of us 1994 graduates. Carol was with the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office for 27 years, and she did some great things. She gave us one example as part of the federal prosecution of some of the officers involved in the case that Derek Chauvin was involved in. Carol quashed a subpoena that was issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office in that case. So she's fought some pretty big fights in her career. I would submit to you that her knowledge, her experience, her expertise on data practices and record retention is probably second to none in the state. So it's quite a coup that we were able to get her with all that experience from Minneapolis, and she's a great resource for our county. So I'd like to just officially introduce you to Carol Bashoon and welcome her to the Wright County Attorney's Office. Carol, if you're going to say a few words.
Chair Vetch and Commissioners, about 9 months ago, I started working at Wright County as a records manager. I was interviewed by Clay Wilfart, Assistant County Administrator, and John Bowen, who recently left the County Attorney's Office to become a judge. I appreciate that they gave me the opportunity to work for Wright County. I enjoyed working with Clay and Lee Kelly. They provided me with the flexibility and guidance that I needed to succeed. Under their supervision, I amended all records-related policies and submitted projects to the Project Administration Department. When I was working on amendments to the IT, social media, and personnel policies, I was able to work effectively with Sean Johnson, John Holler, Matthew Fomby, and let's not forget Scrappy, because he's so cute. As the administrator for Next Request, which is the county's data request software, I have had an opportunity to work with and learn from individuals from various departments, such as Lisa Spencer from Health and Human Services, Barry Reinberger from Planning and Zoning, Tony Rasmussen from the Assessor's Office, Tanya West from the Recorder's Office, and Lori Pollock from Human Resources. It has been enjoyable working with Barb Peterson, Tonya Persons, and Zach Robidoux from HR. They have assisted me and have been knowledgeable and kind. They, along with Lori and Sean, make up a well-run HR team. I will continue to partner with Tupa, IT security analyst, and Tim Dolan Russ from Risk Management to provide cybersecurity risk and records training for new employees. And that just started recently. I also continue to enjoy being a member of the Project Administration's intake team. As a records manager, I worked with John Bowen on various records issues. He was very welcoming and a pleasure to work with. Although he is no longer with the Wright County Attorney's Office, I look forward to seeing him flourish as a judge. I bring to the county not only my experience as a records manager, but like Brian said, I have 28 years of experience as an attorney. I would like to thank Greg Kreiser and Brian Lutz for giving me this opportunity to continue my records work for the county in an attorney capacity. I look forward to working with the attorneys, continuing my relationships with individuals from various departments, and working with you, the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the team.
Thank you, Carolyn. You've done an amazing job thus far, and I know you will continue to do great work in the county attorney's office with this transfer. At this time, I'll look for a motion to sign the documents for the oath of office.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion?
Minneapolis's loss is our gain.
Welcome to our team.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Now, let's see here. We're running about 11 minutes ahead, but once again, the next item is I'm going to move out forward on the 928 one as well, just because it is, once again, not a controversial item, and staff is here to facilitate it.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. I am requesting an increase to our support contract with Sierra Cedar for maintaining and keeping our Oracle system up and running. What I am asking for is an increase of $50,000 to a not-to-exceed amount of $175,000. I had received an email from Tony Kothlow, our project administrator, about a month ago, and indicating that we had about $14,000 left of our not-to-exceed amount, which would get us approximately through the end of June. I am hoping that you guys are willing to get us out to the end of the year with this contract. I don't know if once we get our Oracle support person hired, how much our support contract will decrease in the future year, but I can't expect that they will hit the ground running immediately. So we are going to need these funds. It's a not to exceed amount, so meaning if we don't need to use the support, if our internal person can reduce those costs, we absolutely will.
Lindsay, is this part of the what's in the budget already
Yes.
for this item?
Not this additional $50,000. It was not budgeted for this way.
Okay.
Correct. It is going to have to come from fund balance.
Okay.
Commissioner Vetch, question, is this a change order because we can't figure out how much we need from them, or is it because we only allotted you for 6 months at the
Yes.
beginning of the year?
That's correct.
The change order, because
You
I
said,
hate change orders.
Previously, our last discussion, I don't know when I had come asking for our original change order. Initially, we had $50,000. We were burning through that really fast. So I had asked for enough to get us through the end of the year, and you guys said, wait a minute, let's chill out on this a minute. Let's back this down, and we're only going to give you a limited amount, and we'll see how it goes. I'm at the point where we have now spent the money that you had originally allowed, and I'm asking to get us through the end of the year now.
Okay, so basically what you did figure, you did use. Like, you thought it would get us to the end of the June, and it did?
I didn't know how much. I didn't know how long it would last us because you guys had said, you know what, we're only going to give you an extra 20,000 or 50,000.
So I'll kind of help on that discussion. So that was a late February meeting that we had the discussion about adding.
Sounds about right.
That additional 50,000. The anticipation, the real discussion was you were asking for a much larger dollar amount and trying to
Correct.
carry it the entire year. We chose to be able to find out to get a better inclination on what the burn rate would be,
Yep.
was to go for a lower dollar amount and having them come forward and ask for an additional amount at a later time. The goal was at that time that we would have hired this Oracle person on board on staff to help fend off some of that cost. Now that ended up not taking place till later. We haven't even filled it yet.
Correct.
I think at that point in February, the goal was that this person would maybe be here in April. But looking and trying to do our due diligence and look at the needs overall holistically, we pushed it out further because we added other pieces to that puzzle. I think we have a lot better information on what that is. I think that 175,000 not to exceed number should be, but I mean, once again, we don't know.
Unless something really breaks, it should carry us through the end of the year.
And largely, we're kind of right now coming to the peak of the mountain. And as this new Oracle staff member comes on board and gets acquainted with our systems and the Oracle systems, that should start to take us down the other side of the mountain here.
So right now, our support is for phase 1. It's for maintaining things that we already have implemented. Heather and I will need to look at and make some estimates for our 2024 budget because we will be going live on phase 2. And, we will see a higher support cost at the beginning and it will trickle down. The initial request back in February was for $330,000 of not to exceed. At this point, it's down to 175. So our burn rate is reducing as we are becoming more accustomed and things are calming down. And, being live on it for a greater length of time, we've learned a lot. So it is costing us less to maintain it.
Mr. Chair? Yep. Thanks for coming in. One question would be, and I know it's a guess or speculation, but if you had the architect or the staff in place that was trained and ready to hit the ground running, so to speak, what do you expect that to do to this figure? How much would it decrease if you had a crystal ball? Any idea what you'd expect to gain?
I would hope that it would be able to cut it in half.
So fully trained, whether it's now or 6 months from now, we'd be looking at.
It depends on the things that we have going on here at the county. If we're making significant changes or we're changing policy, we may need that higher level support from the Sierra Cedar team to help us configure the system or reconfigure it. But if it's just minor changes and we're just maintaining the system, I wouldn't expect us to need a whole lot from the Sierra Cedar team to help us keep it going.
Now, this isn't part of the Tony expense. This is part of that.
No, it is not.
Like 14 or 15 extra consultants contract, right?
This is our support team.
Separate from the 14 or 15?
This isn't implementation. This isn't project management.
Okay, so we got like 3 layers of support. Don't we? We have Tony.
He's project manager helping with the implementation of phase 2.
And then we've got the 15 or so people for 1.5 million.
I think you're probably referring to the implementation contracts.
Okay, well, I'll just call that a second piece to it.
Okay.
And then this person you're going to hire is a third piece.
This is a company, and yes.
But the Oracle, the architect.
Oh, correct.
Okay, so, all right, just trying to keep it in perspective. But thank you. That's all I had.
Just anecdotally, I'll say that even without that Oracle position, staff has done an amazing job in learning and being able to fend off a lot of these questions. I mean, I know one of them that mine was that I didn't realize that with Oracle, in order for it to work properly, you have to continually empty your cookies at times. Otherwise, it won't. I don't know. For some reason, it gets hung up on things. And I think probably originally that was probably a question that was sent out to Sierra Cedar, which
sure
now
was.
And now we don't have that question that goes out there. So we're getting more robust in knowing what works, what doesn't work, and this expense will eventually dilute out.
Yep.
All right. Is there, otherwise I'll entertain a motion here for authorizing the signatures on this change order, if there's no other discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make that motion, and I just again want to thank Lindsay and Heather. They took some time to talk to me through this and clarifying today with the other commissioners as well.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. 9:25, we're starting to close down our gap here. I think we're within a close enough time. We'll kind of keep moving on to the 9:33 timed agenda.
Catch 9:22.
9:20.
Oh, oh, you're right, 9:20, you're right. I've got to circle back up on that one. I cut ahead on to 9:23. We'll move up to Mr. Matthijs, then I'll put us back to Elizabeth at 9:33.
He's easily forgettable.
He is, he's so quiet back over there in the corner over there with Barry.
Yeah, we're yelling and screaming. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Part of the household hazardous waste tour a few weeks ago, recommendation was to schedule committee of the whole day to define directions of the facility, program directions, site direction, look over some funding potential options, and then move forward with recommendations from there. So we are suggesting either June 12th or 13th at 11 o'clock, if that works for your schedules.
All right, 1 second here.
June, what day?
I'm good with both.
June 12th or 13th at 11 a.m.
I'm good with both.
Either one.
12th. 12th's fine, me.
12th?
We have EDA on the 12th, but it'd be
After that?
8:30.
after, yeah, you'd have. You want to go at 11 a.m.?
Sure.
12th? Okay.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to set a committee of the whole to discuss the household hazardous waste on June 12th at 11 a.m.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting is scheduled unanimously.
All right, thank
Mr.
you very much.
Matthijs. All right. Now we can move back down to the 9:33 timed agenda item. We're just 5 minutes ahead here. We are looking to approve the following grant applications for the City of St. Michael and the City of Hanover for $779,815, which was the ARP money that we allocated out to the cities.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is correct. So there's two items related to the American Rescue Plan for your approval. The first, as Commissioner Vetch said, is for a grant application for the City of St. Michael and City of Hanover to do improvements to their wastewater treatment facility. The second item is to approve a program request to buy equipment for Wright County to do certified well water testing. Those items will be purchased by Public Health. That is just an allocation, so we will bring that back, the grant application back to you at the next board meeting if approved.
So looking for motions on either one of those requests.
I'll go ahead and make the motion for the wastewater treatment plant for St. Michael and Hanover.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dietrich. Any further discussion? Great. Glad to see the utilization of that ARPA funds is coming to fruition and getting some, hopefully some good bang for the buck for the cities on being able to move forward with some of their projects. All right, any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Now looking to approve the program request for the Wright County Certified Well Water Testing.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane.
I'll second.
Motion by, or second by Commissioner Catchmark. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. And now the second item.
Yes, so the second item is requesting that you adopt a resolution to convey the real property at 1004 Commercial Drive from the county to the county EDA. As you know, the county EDA approved a purchase agreement with Riverside Church to sell that building to them. We are planning to close tomorrow, so we just need to convey that property so that the EDA can finish the sale.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Catchmark for the approval of transferring the property from the Wright County Board to the county EDA. Any further discussion? A resolution, Commissioner Catchmark,
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on here, we have our 9:38 item. We're running pretty close to on time here. We are looking to award contract number 2306 for County Road 148, Braddock Avenue.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair and County Board members. I have two items for the highway today. And the first is that we recommend awarding contract 2306 to Dunick Incorporated in the amount of $2,284,627.56. And this is for the Braddock Avenue County 48 realignment. We received 5 bids on Wednesday, May 31st at 10 a.m. And a copy of the bid summary is attached to the packet. The low bid was 18.5% under our engineer's estimate. I would like to put a caveat on the award of this bid that it would be effective upon the date that the purchase agreement is signed for the right-of-way, which we expect to happen today or tomorrow. And then that'll be brought at the next board meeting for the right-of-way purchase agreement. We do have a verbal agreement, and we had that with the landowner.
Very, very good. Any questions or discussions? I'll entertain a motion otherwise. Virgil, one question I have is what's the commencement date they're thinking?
So Chad talked with the contractor already, even though we haven't awarded the bid yet, and it's probably going to be, the soonest it would start be towards the end of June, possibly after the 4th of July.
Okay. Very
Do you
good.
want that motion to read contingent on the approval of the?
You can make that part of it. I mean, I guess it would be the awarding the contract 2306 for County Road 148 Braddock Avenue with the, I guess, contingent that the
Purchase
right-of-way
agreement is signed.
agreement is signed for
I will make
right
that
away.
motion.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich, second by Commissioner Shane. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Contract approved unanimously.
Thank you. So the next item is we're seeking to authorize signatures on a purchase agreement to purchase about 3.5 acres of land directly adjacent to our Maple Lake shop. And this is part of the Highway Department short-term plan for kind of consolidation of our outlying maintenance shops. We've had this, been working on this one for several years. We were trying to find some land in the Annandale area, but it kind of works out best to stay where we're at, just buy some more land and rebuild there. And that will facilitate us phasing out our French Lake shop, that we could sell that property in the future. We do have CIP funds budgeted for this, and so we're looking for approval of authorization of signatures on the purchase agreement.
So, Virgil, I will applaud you on your due diligence. You've looked at a lot of different sites, and we've been discussing this for probably almost 4 years, I think was the first
maybe
discussion.
more than that.
It might even be more, yeah. And it's kind of slowly worked its way east from the original discussions, but in all for good reasons for where it's at. Are you still intending to salvage part of the existing building out in the Maple Lake Township? Are you thinking about going all new?
It would be all new building. There's a chance we could salvage and repurpose the salt hoop building there and maybe relocate that on the site.
So is there any other discussion items? Otherwise, I'll entertain that motion to authorize the signature on that purchase of that additional land.
Mr. Chair. Morning, Virgil. Just, do you plan on using the French Lake Township building until this new building is up and running?
Yes,
And then the process will start for selling it?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead and make that motion, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Shane,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Virgil.
Thanks.
All right, we have the Health and Human Services Board. I'm going to hold out for a few minutes for that. We're going to move down to items for consideration. We have the referred items to the county board workshop on June 13th. We have the typical scheduling of meetings, the water resource management options, the ERP update, and telecommunication analysis update. Is there any other items that we'd like to add to that discussion?
Just, Mr. Chair, I know we had our committee of the whole, and there is a number of projects on there. I think it might be good also speaking with Mr. Hevel, potentially of getting an update on some of his projects, if you'd want, or we can move this to another meeting in the future.
I think it's probably a good idea is to kind of get keep that
Yeah.
that going forward with that project update. And then probably you'll just take a quick minute now at the legislative session just to kind of recap the legislative session as well. So just I'll do a quick legislative update. All right. Very good. And the second item, so would be the, we're gonna hold out to that one to the end of the meeting for the closed session, so we don't have to exit the room at this time. Then the third item would be approve and adopt the recommendations from the May 16th Household Hazardous Waste Tour. And then we have the May 31st Ways and Means. Let's do them separately because we're getting a little bit close on time on our Health and Human Services meeting. So the household hazardous waste recommendations was to schedule a committee of the whole, which we've already done, to discuss in greater detail. So I guess we probably don't even need to make a motion on it since we already did the recommendation on that of scheduling a committee of the whole.
Mr. Chair, just something in addition for those of us that were out there, there was, for staff direction also, there was more interest than just one commissioner in potentially selling that property. So I think as far as the location discussion, I'd like to see what the market value is of the property and what the zoning type options are for the property. Because location is part of that recommendation. So if staff would have that direction today rather than bring it up at the next meeting, that would be helpful.
Good idea.
I'm not in favor of going into a market analysis on the property myself personally. I just don't feel that the liquidation of that property is given its location and given its current infrastructure and any type of environmental mitigation that may be needed to be able to make that property sellable. I feel like it would end up costing us more than it would be worth. But that's my opinion. So I think going forward with I believe it's well suited for what it's been used for. The buildings on it itself, maybe not best suited for it, but that improvement I think should be looked at, but maybe not looking at it from a real estate perspective and trying to relocate to another parcel within the county.
Mr. Chair, as having been one of the four out there and hearing what the consensus was at the committee of the whole discussion, I'll make a motion that the recommendation include a market study and presenting a value of the property and the zoning options as part of that location inquiry that was part of the recommendation.
All right.
That's my motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
Second.
second by Commissioner Shane. Discussion. So,
Mr. Chair, I mean, it can be discussed. I think there's a lot of different things that we need to talk about, what's going to go where and the costs and the funding. It's not something, I mean, it's something we can consider, but I think we're putting the the cart before the horse. And you know, there's obviously some concerns that go along with possibly selling that property.
all right. So you have a motion and we have a second. Any other further discussion to add to the additional scope of that committee of the whole to entertain the zoning and marketability of the property and subsequent value of it?
Correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right. That being said, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. All right. Now moving up to the Health and Human Services, but I think we're close enough here. At this time, the county board is going to put their Health and Human Services Board hat on, and we will enter into our Health and Human Services Board agenda. I'll wait for Jamie to come up here. All right, the first item on the agenda for today is the approval of today's consent agenda. There's a couple items on there. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of today's consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Shane.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Any
Oh,
discussion?
thank you. Before you vote, just a quick clarification. On the first item on the consent agenda, Linda Carlson's location is actually District 5 upon further examination. So just for the record.
And Mr. Chair, and I talked to you earlier, but looking through the packet, I didn't see any of the typical references to Health and Human Services material. Usually we'll see a attendance report on folks for reappointment. We'll see an application for new members. I'm just wondering if I missed something?
No, I have them in paper.
Oh, okay, because in the past, they've been part of that. I guess I'd request that would continue so we could see that
I got
ahead
an
of time.
extra if you need another one.
And just a quick question for you is, so it's an appointment out of the district. Is that something that we as commissioners have a discussion with about or help appoint, or is that just independent?
For the advisory committee?
Yeah.
So we typically kind of vet the application and then we bring it for approval. So yes, you do have an opportunity to say yea or nay on each applicant.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm wondering, do you have somebody from every district represented then, or is it just at large?
Well, we look for representation across. I can't say right now, I believe we do have representation from each district, if I recall correctly. If we are short or we have a vacancy in any district, we'll reach out to the commissioner and ask you if you have any input on somebody that could participate that we could then reach out to.
Okay, so we'd be aware if there's a vacancy in our
Right.
district. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved unanimously. All right, now moving on to the timed agenda items would be the adoption of the resolution 2305 to accept May donations.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
I didn't see the resolution for any of this.
Yeah, there's,
It's in the it should be all in the packet.
there was some sort of a snafu in there that some of those things, that's where the discussion that we had, Commissioner Catchmark and I had earlier. If you go through the tabs in there,
There's zero reference to HHS.
just, yeah, the entire HHS part of the agenda.
Well, I saw the opioid settlement, so that's as far as I looked actually, so I thought it was
Yeah,
there.
that one was in there, but the resolution one, which granted, there isn't anything that would be included for the like employee of the month, so that's why I think it probably didn't really come to a lot of attention. And typically you have the one page for the,
I believe they were submitted, but we'll verify or review
are
it
they
more
showing up
closely.
over there on yours?
Page 227
Yeah.
online.
Is it just not in the way, because I'm using the tabs to find everything, is it?
Page 227.
I think the bookmark on the tab takes you to the beginning of the HHS items. But if you go to 227, the resolution is attached there.
Okay, I see it here, Mr. Chair. We
Yeah,
couldn't find it in the back, but, okay.
Yeah, it must be something that's out of order because I have the Wright County Continuity of Operations plan in between there that kind of, so must have got something put in out of order, but that's okay. So with that, looking to get a motion on adopting that resolution 2305.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dietrich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. On this resolution.
Aye.
Aye. Catchmark, aye.
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 Resolution approved unanimously. All right. Now, the recognition of the HHS Employee of the Month for June.
Thank you. And I realize now I didn't bring my glasses up, but I think we're okay. And I would like to invite Lori Ackman to come up to the podium. And now after, I want to make sure it's Ackman? Ackman, oh, good. Okay. So board, this is Lori, our June Employee of the Month. Lori is a children's mental health child welfare worker. She joined Wright County in March of 2001. Lori facilitated SED, severe emotional disturbance groups, and conducted shelter assessments. Lori also has experience working in the developmental disabilities, educational neglect, and truancy. Lori is trained in family group decision-making and youth transition conferences. Lori brings strength and understanding to children and families regarding mental health, intervention services, foster care, and waiver services. Her nominator states, since working with Lori, she has some of our most difficult cases. She recently received another extremely difficult case, and instead of being complacent, she decided to challenge the family to support this youth. She made the decision to challenge not only the family, but also as challenging herself for this child in hopes of keeping this child with their family and hopefully permanency. Lori is always willing to help consult, figure out a solution, or provide guidance to her team members. Lori is full of wisdom and brings so much to this team and agency. Lori is deserving of this recognition. Thank you, Lori, and congratulations on being our June 2023 HHS Employee of the Month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And thank you for all your great work.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Moving on to the review of the opioid settlement anticipated funding.
Yes, this was at a request from the board to just kind of bring back and look at where we're at with the opioid funding. And I have both Ellie Vanas and Becky Graham here to report on that. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay. All right, so I'm Becky Graham, public health nurse, and we'll give you a quick update on where our opioid settlement funds are at. So an estimated 6.38 will be coming to Wright County from a couple different settlements. You can see them broken down there. 3.5 from the original settlement, 25,000 from the Malincrot settlement, and an estimated 2.8 from the pharmacy settlement. These are a little bit subject to change because of some attorney's fees that they took out, but if they're not used, we will then get them back at the same percentage that they took them away. So not a huge amount. A little recap on OSAC, so the Opioid Settlement Advisory Council. In the second half of 22, it was formed, and that was the group's decision to help us effectively, efficiently, and spend money on the most impactful ways. We have a 25-person maximum, and that is per our bylaws, and the final approvals remain with you guys as the Board of Commissioners. In early 23, we did a funding prioritization survey that was completed by the community and some partners. We have monthly meetings between finance, administration, and public health. That was started in early 23, and before that it was kind of on as needed basis, but now it's a more regular occurring. Some recent updates. So I talked about the survey that was completed by 784 individuals. We used those results to sort of guide our RFP in building that. The RFP was developed from the Opioid Council, and the decision was made to really leave those funding buckets broad for this first installment of the RFP. So in the same language that the memorandum of agreement is, we left a treatment, a prevention, and an other category. The RFP is anticipated to release $500,000 to communities. The schedule is of August of 23, those funds would be released. So this is a little RFP overview. So as you know, the RFP did just recently close on May 31st. So June 1st, the reviewers received the names of the applicants that were received, and then they were asked to disclose any conflicts of interest, and those are reviewed by the attorney's office. That's currently where we sit. They're in the hands of the attorney's office right now. On June 6th, our reviewers are supposed to receive their assigned proposals, and they will then score them according to the scoring rubric. What? Oh, yes, today. By the 12th, the reviewers are to return all of the proposals with their scores. The 13th, then the reviewers will attend a review team meeting to discuss and apply a final score. So they'll be able to adjust their scores, and then that RFP will be given a final score by that group. On June 14th, finance will review all proposals scoring higher than a 65. And that will just sort of make sure that they meet all of the requirements from the finance department. June 20th, the Opioid Council will meet again and hold a grant recommendation meeting, and they will formalize funding recommendations, in which then will be brought to you guys as the Board of Commissioners. So to date, we have received $762,000. Our expected 2023 amount is an additional $724-ish thousand. And then we do earn interest on those funds. The special revenue fund is established. It is a Fund 12. I think it's the only Fund 12 we have here. So that ensures that there's no intermingling of funds. This is the payment schedule. I don't expect you to read all that. But what you can see in there is the green is what we have received to date. You can see in July of 23, we have a bunch of expected deposits. The ones from the pharmacy settlements, I don't believe we're going to get in July. I think that was an estimate. We haven't heard that those are coming officially, but they will come sometime in 23. So it looks like on here, according to the totals, 2023 should be our biggest year of funds dispersed or received. Any questions?
So did you leave a cap on the grant request, or?
Entities could ask between 5,000 and 100,000.
Question. I had a question from constituents that said, why would the pharmaceutical companies like Walgreens have to pay out when they can only dispense per doctor's order? Do you know why?
I mean, I can speak to a lot of the pharmacies. I believe we're not handling things appropriately.
Okay.
Or doing things that, there should have been some stop gaps in recognizing the amount of prescriptions that were being written
And I believe sometimes pharmaceutical companies would go out to the clinics and tell the clinics about the pharmaceuticals that they have, which would then in turn have the prescribers prescribe those prescriptions.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm sure you could probably find a lot of interesting details on that.
There was a fact from several years ago, so don't hold me to it, but not too many years ago, there were more opioid prescriptions prescribed in Wright County than there were residents in Wright County.
Wow.
Yes.
Just as far as like the volume and breadth of what this issue is.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they've established a registry so that there's a common, so there's not those duplicate
Yes, so you can
fillings of prescriptions.
You
in
can
various
check
places.
the prescription monitoring program.
Right.
You're supposed to check that usually for all of those controlled substance prescriptions to see if they're getting a prescription from here and here and here, and kind of having a consensus of that's too much, or things like that.
So is the goal to disperse all 738,000 this year, and then the subsequent years the full amount, or is it just kind of based on supply and demand on a year-by-year basis?
So initial discussions with the council was we would do this first installment, the 500,000. There has been some conversation of doing another one later in 2023. And then there would be an overlap of programs working, because this one goes through December of 2024. So they have 17 months of funding. I think the group has really kind of left that open-ended. It sounds like we could do an annual RFP. The group could decide to take a couple of years off and just work on some other things and let money build up and then do another big one. But I think a lot of the money will go out in the next 5 years that we have. So,
Mr. Chair, and these are reimbursable funds for this grant program?
For their work, right?
Their work.
Yes.
Yep.
And then you guys are putting a reporting requirement so we can kind of see after the fact, after the 15, 17 months after the fund, so we can see how they got reimbursed and kind of gauge the value of the money spent.
Yes, so we as a receiving entity of this money are required to do annual reporting every January. And then they do a larger reporting every March. So we are asking the people that are receiving the funds the same reporting questions that we then have to report. So we have that data. So they'll have to report even more regularly than at the end of 17 months. We'll be asking them on a more regular basis.
I guess because my ask would be, since the county board's the final approving board of those funds, that those reports come, I mean, not just to the advisory council to it, but to the county board itself, just so I know going forward that they felt that those funds have gotten some value on how we've been approving them.
Yep, and we, in being transparent to the community too, we will be putting some sort of report on the county website as well of, this much money was spent on treatment and recovery and this much on prevention and things like that. So we will be absolutely as transparent as we can with how these funds are being spent.
Very good.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thanks for coming in and explaining and clarifying. So we started out, I think we were at $3 million over 18 years. And then I started going to safe schools in different places, and I was hearing, well, now it's up to 6 million. What's that payment plan if that first shipment of money was over 18 years? What's the rest look like?
So it kind of depends on, so Walmart is paying it all up front, from my understanding. So it kind of depends on who we're getting the money from. Some of them are paying it over 7 years, some of them are 9 years, some of them are 10, some of them are 18. So it really depends on the
schedule the lawyers worked out.
Yep.
Oh, so all of it then within 18 years?
Yes.
Okay. How much has been spent so far?
Approximately like $400, maybe. We've only used these funds for settlement council advisors, opioid settlement advisory council stipends, which is only a couple members, and those are for the monthly meetings. And then we did spend maybe a tiny bit amount for the survey dissemination, like printing and things like that. Other than that, it has not been spent.
Okay. And what drew my attention, we had correspondence, but we were paying per diems out of the opioid settlement money, but then the conference money and all that, then, okay, that came from SHIP money. And I got an explanation from finance on that, but it wasn't consistent in my mind at that point.
And certainly we'll take direction from the board. At this point, we have SHIP, which is statewide health improvement dollars that also address, substance use disorders and things like that, ways that we can spend the money. We don't always spend all of that money, so our thought was we would be spending the SHIP monies in the initial stages to preserve the funds for the opioid settlement. That's not county dollars. It's all, I think the SHIP are statewide funds. So that was in order to preserve before we kind of got into this whole, before we're looking at how we're going to be using the council and dispensing the money. If the board would like to give us other directions versus charging our staff time to the SHIP where we would normally charge their staff time for these types of activities. This is unusual in the fact that we have an opioid settlement. We could draw from there. So it's kind of, I would say, it's 6 or, whatever, half a dozen of the other, because these would potentially be underused funds. We certainly, if we were looking at SHIP funds and we were in a situation where they would not be sufficient to meet the needs of our county staff to partake in, activities or training, we would be looking at the settlement dollars, and then we probably would have to come to the board and ask for like a training budget or something like that, which we don't have right now.
So if you're working on opioid exclusively, whether it's in this building or you're at a conference around the country, are those wages covered either way from one of these two options, either settlement or SHIP?
Currently, yes.
Okay. Well,
right now we've been charging SHIP. So currently we've not used the settlement dollars in that way. We have been using the SHIP dollars, which has been our normal vehicle to use for drug awareness, we also have a META grant, so depending on who the staff is, we'd maybe charge one staff to one grant. In the bigger picture, SHIP is kind of that catch-all for a lot of these other types of funding.
And an explanation was you hardly ever run out of SHIP money, so it's not that you're depriving some other effort by taking money from there for opioid.
We might prioritize something else in the future, which again, we'd be coming back to the board and saying, because health priorities shift, as we know, during the pandemic, and we might say we need SHIP funds to respond to something else, in which case we might rely more heavily on the opioid settlement for costs that are derivative directly from the opioid group. not, well, it would be, we wouldn't be covering with the SHIP dollars any non-employee expenses, if you follow that.
I do.
Okay.
That's all I had. I
Right.
don't know if anyone else was questioning that, what pot of money it's coming from, but I just wanted to tell you what drew my
Yeah.
attention.
And if there's a direction we want to talk about in the future, we're certainly open to that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Ellie.
All right. So with that, I guess that's informational only. I guess I'll turn it over to director's comments.
Thank you. And I was hoping to bring back the director comments, which we were doing when we were having our separate HHS meetings. These are really typically not to be acted on unless something catches your eye that you would like to, provide us with some direction. But I think they're important things for the commissioners to hear, and maybe not always gets your attention. The first item I have is the allocation we got for $642,000 for the MA unwinding. Basically, I've got a letter from DHS telling us that here are funds that counties, so the counties were given. Well, I think one of the very first legislative things out of this session is Governor Walz signed a $36 million grant back to the counties for the unwinding of MA after the pandemic. These funds can be used for expenses that support MA renewals, including implementation of renewal mitigation strategies. Some examples of how funds can be used are for addressing disparities, planning activities, hiring and training staff, overtime pay, supplies, equipment, enrollee outreach and communications, printing, postage, and technology. So we're still kind of we've heard that we're getting the grant, the funds. We know this is how we can use them. I think there's some finance might have some questions about how they fall, and if these are funds that we can use only for expenses we've not already accrued, or however it is. In any event, it's a great windfall for the county and will greatly aid us in either technology or staff to help us in meeting with these, I would say, higher than normal needs of our constituents. We've got about 25,000 people, I think is what this showed, on medical assistance in Wright County. Any questions about that? Medica has approved us for funding for a laundry relief program. This was a very low effort. We asked for funding to support laundry needs for our homeless population, or people that don't have access to laundry or low income, and they basically gave us $10,000 to support people with some needs they have, whether it's, I think right now they gave us like a laundry bag. We'll be purchasing baskets, soap, laundry soap, and we're working with a couple of local businesses for them to open their doors strictly for people that would be taking use of this funding, and then we would reimburse them for their time and equipment. So kind of a nice program for folks in the area. Let's see. Just so you're aware, because I think there's been some discussion around the dental clinic and the bonding funds that sound like there was maybe, can I say, glitch or a snafu. The legislature corrected a technical wording issue in the bonding bill that could have caused an issue had it not been corrected. So right now it looks like we don't have any issues between us and the bonding funds that we're anticipating for the clinic. And also to thank our local representatives that were involved with this. I believe it was both Representative O'Neill, Senator Anderson, our Board of Commissioners. So it's been a great effort, and we appreciate all the help. I want to just mention that we have removed, if you're not familiar with our Child Care Basic Sliding Fee Program, we get approximately $900,000 a year from the state to help lower income families offset their child care needs. In the past, we've overrun this sometimes. Sometimes we've come up less, so we keep a close eye. We get a projection of how much we're spending. If we keep spending at the rate we're spending, what our end of the year projection looks like. Right now, we're we're looking at potentially getting more money from this year's legislature. So we are removing our wait list. We have a lot of young families. We're the fastest growing county. A lot of people use this program. So at this point, we've had a wait list for more than several months, and we're removing that wait list so more families can avail themselves of these funds. So it's a good thing, again, when we're looking at worker retention and things that we need to do countywide. Also, for your awareness, on next Tuesday, I believe it is, the 13th, we are having an all-staff training. We'll be down here, sounds like you're also meeting at the same time, but I was going to invite you to come to our HHSL staff training. We're going to be doing 2 2-hour increments, so half the staff in from 10 to 12 and half the staff from 1 to 3. One final item is just kind of the kickoff of our co-responder program. As you know, it sounds like the board's been very supportive so far. We are teaming one of our one outreach, social worker 2, Kaylin, with a sheriff's deputy to, I think, 2 days a week, starting this week, Thursday, to do ride-alongs with them from 8 to 4:30. In our first pilot effort of our new co-responder program. So it's fairly limited right now, but we're excited to see what gains we can make. And again, with the opioid settlement, I saw some of the things, treatment, prevention, law enforcement types of things. So I think this fits in very well with some of the goals as well that the opioid settlement money is looking at. But again, pervasive goals are pervasive issues throughout our community. And that's all I have. I'm just wondering if this is the kind of information you would like me to continue to bring to the meetings when there are things to share.
For sure.
Okay.
Yep, I think this
Yes,
is a
Jamie,
good,
thank you.
this is a good sampling
you.
of items.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now going back to the county board agenda, we'll be moving on to our 956 item, which would be the pass resolution adopting the 2023 county hazardous mitigation plan. Seth?
Morning. Good morning, Chair and Board. So we're looking to pass the resolution to adopt the 2023 hazard mitigation plan. We have to update this every 5 years. So this plan gets input from all the cities in Wright County, actual public input, officials, everybody else. That this meetings have been going on for quite a while, and now the plan is done. But we have to have this plan in place, or in the event of any disaster in Wright County, we wouldn't be eligible for FEMA funding. So it's very important that we update this every 5 years in the case of some sort of a disaster, that we can be eligible for those funds. And then so each city is also passing a resolution. I think we've got them all back but 2. And once we have those and ours, everything will be set in place. And we've already received the letter from FEMA saying that they approve of the plan.
All right. Any discussion? Nope. Any discussion on the hazardous mitigation plan?
This is an annual, thank you, Mr. This is an annual report,
This
right?
one's a 5-year plan, every
Okay.
5. Yep.
So we last looked at it 5 years ago.
Yep, 2017 was the last approved one.
Any changes of note for us?
There is, so each city actually brings up projects or stuff throughout the meetings. Some have been done over the years, like Delano previously years ago came up with the levee walls that helped get paid through the hazard mitigation grant and things like that. So everybody's cities and stuff have added projects that they would like to see done, if at all possible, and this makes them eligible for those funds as well through the grants.
Okay, and Delano's appreciative, I've heard about that wall.
Yeah, it's
Building the
saved them
wall
a couple
there.
times now, yeah.
Very nice.
No, that was my interest there, since I wasn't here 5 years ago, what did we see for changes? So, thank you.
Very good. All right. Then I guess I'll look for a motion to pass the resolution adopting the 2023 mitigation plan.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Dietrich, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Resolution, Commissioner Shane?
Aye.
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 Resolution passes unanimously. All right, now we have the consent agenda item E1 that was put down to under this item, which was it is the approval of the Wright County Continuity of Operations Plan. Are you the spokesman on that?
I can be today. We have the nuclear drill going on right now, so I'll take the place of Rich.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Seth. My only question was there, it's 34-page document. It says it's reviewed annually. Can you brief us if there's any noteworthy changes?
Well, it's been streamlined quite a bit. It used to be over 120 some pages, so we've streamlined it compared to what it was. The last time we actually enacted the plan was obviously during the COVID pandemic. It gives you guys a bunch of authority to do things, and the main thing is who are your essential employees in the event that something were to even happen to this building and you had to shut it down? Who are you going to have as your essential employees and the materials they need to work? And so we go through that every year. It's not necessarily reviewed by the county board every year, you can, but it's mainly by the COOP committee, and just going through and making sure the annexes and stuff are up to date, the right personnel is where they're supposed to be. Each department head has to go through and list their essential personnel and so forth.
Any noteworthy changes with the new buildings and things that you found that needed to be addressed?
Not really, it's more of a personnel issue, like who are your key employees and so forth that you're gonna have come in.
Okay.
And
Thank
did
you.
some tabletops on it, on a lot of it having to do with financial approvals. I think not too long ago. I think that was the most
Yep.
recent tabletop.
Yeah, and we did that at the highway building at the time, if
Yep.
I recall. Yep.
But good to have when it comes to, because I'll remember that meeting when we actually took that one off the shelf and implemented it. Was that 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, that March or February there.
Yeah, I
March.
remember we went in the back room. And it was like, what can we do? What can't we do? And, yeah.
It was going down the weeds until we realized, we really have something in place that really addresses this.
Yep.
So, well done. Entertain a motion to adopt that.
I'll make that motion.
All right. We have a motion by
Second
Commissioner
that.
Catchmark, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks, Seth.
All right. And now we're moving all the way back to the items for consideration, which was the May 31st Ways and Means Committee recommendations. So if we pull up those recommendations here, 1 second. And, sorry, the recommendation then was to present a contract rate of $105 per hour for law enforcement to contracted cities, and then to the SRO contracted rate for 2024 to be $55,000 with an annual increase in the following year.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And we had talked earlier, and this was a meeting that just for reference, the Commissioner in Holland and I were at, and we could see the minutes. There's a paragraph there summarizing. We actually spent about an hour and 15 minutes, I think, that is not reflected here. But we were presented with a document with some information at the start of the meeting that's got a projections graph and some facts and figures here. And what drew attention is when we were talking about prosecution fees, and the Sheriff's Administration pointed out a administrative number that they referenced amounted to about $197,000, and that's used for prosecution fees. And so after that meeting, I didn't have a problem with the $105 an hour, but I talked to some different staff and I said, can someone reference where this money came from and where it ends up? Because this is what we were told at the meeting. And as of this morning, in talking to several staff, I still haven't gotten that answer, which I would be more comfortable getting. I don't know about the rest of the board, but 197,000, a significant amount that's marked for something that I would like to see more of a trail and track of where it goes.
So Commissioner Catchmark, you are comfortable in understanding that the 197,000 is included in that $105 rate. Your more concern is where is it living within the county budget?
Right, I would say so, because if we're told and marked that that's where it's going, and the person that would be receiving it, as of last year, said they're not receiving it, I think the board should have
Okay.
that explanation.
Then my recommendation would be then that this is a 2024 budgetary discussion, and I would say that we would refer the discussion about that $197,000 that comes in as revenue through the contract rate with the city be discussed with finance, and how it can be or should be incorporated into the budget is a budgetary expense in the sheriff's department and a potential revenue within the attorney's office, or in the ramifications of such changes. I think that can be a discussion that can take place, because right now you're comfortable in knowing that that money is coming in under this $105 for it, to my understanding.
Well,
So you're just more concerned then is that money being spent, that revenue that's coming in from the contracted rate, is it being transferred to the proper location for the expense?
Well, and Mr. Chair, thanks for taking the time to digest and present it that way. I guess the way this was presented and what we were told and what the follow-up, without more of an explanation now, I'm not comfortable with the $105 going forward, because this was part of that presentation at that meeting. That was the figure. We were told what it was going for. And about a week later, I still don't have the clarification with a lot of high-level folks that were looking into it. And if someone can't come here today after the request to explain it, then no, I'm not comfortable with that, I guess, in fairness.
So you're saying your concern is that the $105 does not generate the $197,000 that they're stating it does to accommodate that prosecution expense?
In short, Commissioner, or Mr. Chair, I don't have enough information to make the decision. It's too vague. There's just no background justification to properly explain that figure from what Commissioner Holland and I heard in the meeting. I can't speak for her, but she was the other one there with me.
I'm going to say that I'm a little bit frustrated because this recommendation that you guys brought forward, and that should have been vetted out on Friday if there wasn't information that you didn't have, because we have subsequent meetings that are contingent on this taking place on Thursday, that a lot of people are coming forward. And if we don't adopt this rate on here, we are going to have to change a lot of different things from the subsequent meeting. So that's where my question is, if your concern is, if you believe that the $105 rate is correct, then let's move forward with that and discuss where the attorney's prosecution revenue lives, then we can move forward. But if you don't believe that the $105 generates the cost for prosecution, well, now we have a problem, because I
see it, Mr. Chair, but in fairness, we were given this at 9:01:01, and nobody else in the room had seen it. And so we were left an hour and a half, we're going through it. And I thought, okay, I got a week that I can do research. This should be very easy to find. And as of now, we haven't found it.
Well, I guess my concern would be more the fact is that if you weren't comfortable at that meeting, you could have said that, you know what, I need more information. I'm not going to agree to the $105, in which case they wouldn't have put it on this board agenda meeting, in which case we would have pivoted last week to pushing these things out further so you can get yourself acclimated. But when you make a recommendation coming out of that meeting, when you're given that information that you support this $105, and then you come to this boardroom and say that you don't, you continue to chain reaction that you get to the 1 yard line, and now you want to pivot differently, and it makes it much more complicated. I guess now I'm trying to solve, what is the issue? Is the issue the rate, or is it where the revenue lives? Well, you started off saying that you're okay with the rate, and you're just concerned with where the revenue lives. But now you're saying you're not comfortable with the rate. Which one is it?
Well, I've stated my concerns, and Commissioner Holland hasn't said anything. Did you have anything to add? I don't want to speak for you.
I want to say that, coming out of that meeting, it was nice to know that they do have that $197,000, and that should be noted, that it is part of what, because we've always wanted to make sure that that was equally covered under that per rate. But I do want that number to slide in during budget time so that it does go to the correct place. I don't want that number to disappear and be doubly booked. I don't, I want that noted. And we don't see where that's noted. That was a number that just flew into us at that meeting.
And I've had discussions with County Attorney Lutz and Chief Treichler, and that number that they use to calculate prosecution fees is like a dart on a wall, because it could be very high, it could be very low, because you don't know what the caseload would be yet from year to year. So that $197,000 number that's in there is just a projected number of what the cost would be. So it could be, the actual cost could be less, could be more, but on average, they feel comfortable with that line. Now, I think if you're okay with the $105 rate, then I'd say the discussion needs to take place between the board, finance, the county attorney, the sheriff's office on how we transfer that into a revenue line in the sheriff's attorney's office and the ramifications within that, because it's a change in practice from previous, because right now they're using that revenue to dilute other expenses within the sheriff's office, so that may change their budgetary. That's the reason I'm saying if we're doing this, we have to do it through budgets, because you have to change your budget, because you'll be shortfall 200,000 that you previously had there before.
Correct.
And he's gonna have to the good 200,000 that he may have to budget less for. So you're basically just gonna take levy dollars from the sheriff's department, or the county attorney's department and our office, and put to the sheriff's office and create a revenue line. Same outcome. The levy's still gonna be the same. You're just moving numbers around and creating line items within the ledger.
Mr. Chair, and I get what you're saying. I'm just saying from the person that was sitting in the room and listening to the narrative that we were told, they identified it as prosecution fees. We didn't. So then at that point, okay, I'll take you for your word and trust that that's where it's going. So then you do a little homework, because going back last year, our office head that would be getting the prosecution fee says that he's not. And at this meeting, we're hearing 197 is collected for that. So then I'm thinking, all right, our staff should very easily be able to locate this figure. And that, so just so you know, I'm not trying to play both sides, Mr. Chair, but I was just working with the info that we got at the last minute at the last meeting. So if that figure, to make everybody comfortable, just doesn't disappear and is revisited at another time and fleshed out more thoroughly, I think that that's fair. But I'm just working on the information that I was given at the meeting.
Sure, and so you're, that's where I wanted to delineate here, because there's two separate pieces. If your concern is the 197,000, we can address that and have conversations and facilitate that within the budget process for 2024. If you have concerns about the $105 rate, that is really what we're dealing with at this time. Do you feel that the $105 an hour accommodates the expenses that are associated with our contracted law enforcement for the municipalities in Wright County?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the $105 rate.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich. We have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich. We have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich. Do I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second that. If we can somehow in the vocabulary put something in documentation with the 197 being looked at and worked with. Is there some way of being able to do that?
Well, I think they're two separate issues, but I think we can absolutely, I mean, I would say don't tie that $105 to that 197,000. You want to make your discussion of the 197,000 a discussion on whether you do or don't approve the budget for 2024, and whether you agree that the numbers on where the revenue comes from is being spent and where it should be spent, and putting it within the budgetary process, not within the city's contract agreement.
I agree, Mr. Chair. Yes, because we've had a lot of fees that we need to be looking at. So I'll go ahead and second Commissioner Dietertz.
And I did say, and like I said, coming out of that meeting, we did flesh out for an hour and a half a lot of these fees and where they were going, and Lindsay was there. And so I do feel that the 105 will cover what is needed for going forward for this year. And I do think it will, but I do agree. I think we need to make sure that we're not double charging. I think going forward, I think that 105 will be a good rate.
And I will say that myself and Commissioner Shane on the Finance Committee will be able to work with Finance to bring back a recommendation to the board when going through the budget process that will hopefully accommodate all parties involved in making everybody feel comfortable with that.
And Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the comments, and I think that it's more closely related than some here might want to think, because this was part of the presentation. This was, before anything was said, this was handed out, and we can't lose track of that to say that it's drastically separate and different, because it was part. but I'm good as long as it's not forgotten and it's addressed at another appropriate time.
Mr.
Okay?
Chair, I don't want to go backwards. I just feel I should say something, and not only Mr. Chair, but fellow commissioners, Commissioner Ketchmark. I thought it was a very productive meeting, and I think not only is the exact number of what portion of my office's budget is spent on the municipal prosecutions or is attributable to the municipal prosecutions is not black and white. I think also the funding formula is also a little murky because as we discussed at Ways and Means, we have the county portion of the city residence tax. Some of that would be coming to me. Some of the amount that the sheriff's office identified as part of administrative expenses is coming to me, and also fine revenue is coming to me. So it's not a crystal clear formula. And I think we discussed all of those things in Ways and Means when we had the recommendation for the 105 coming out. And I'm happy to discuss it more. I just don't know that there's ever going to be a crystal clear answer with a certain number.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just, it was important, I think, to lay it out there more for the three that weren't there because there was only two there. And so that you could kind of try and see and hear what we saw and heard. That's all. So thank you. That's good discussion.
And Mr. Chair, and just thanks for the clarity. You're looking for clarity, and that's what we're working on. So thank you.
And I will applaud Commissioner Hall and Commissioner Catchmark for your due diligence on this. I think we've never put more time ever into this rate than we have this year, and rightfully so, because it's under more scrutiny than ever, and we needed to really look at what's all included in that and making sure that we're not overcharging or undercharging so that there's, some equity or equality for participating cities as well as non-participating cities. And I think we've struck a good number here.
Yep. Agreed.
All right.
On to Thursday.
All right. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. At this time, I'm going to ask that we forego the advisory updates, just as we are getting late here. We have a committee of the whole at 10:30, and we still yet have a closed session that we have to go to. The closed session is to review pending litigation in a matter of Wright County. This is going to be under what statute?
Mr. Chair, it's under Minnesota Statute 13D.05, Subdivision 3. Closing it for the purposes of attorney-client privilege. The matter is the County of Wright versus Public Employees Retirement Association, matter number 3600-38743.
All right, then we'll enter into that closed session. Are we going to stay here and
I got team set up.
team set in the back? All right, so we'll thank you. We'll come back in. I guess we have to formally come back in and adjourn the meeting. Yep. So. All right, we're back out of closed session. Before we close the meeting here, we have is there a recommendation coming out of the closed session?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a settlement in the matter of Wright County versus Public Employees Retirement Association, matter number 3600-38743, in the amount not to exceed $150,000, and direct the county board chair, the county administrator, and council to execute all documents and agreements necessary to resolve and settle the matter.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Catchmark,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Is there any discussion? I appreciate all the staff's time on this and hopefully putting this situation to rest. Being that it is 9:50 and we are already 20 minutes behind on our committee of the whole. Pardon me?
Vote.
Oh, sorry. You're right. We had a motion. I'm already moving on to the next committee. All right. Is there any other discussion on the motion that we have by Commissioner Catchmark and second by Commissioner Holland on the settlement of the matter of Wright County versus Public Employees Retirement Association? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great. It is 10:48. We are already 20 minutes behind on our committee of the whole. At this time, we'll forego the advisory committee updates and we'll include them in on the workshop next week. So with that, we will adjourn today at 10:48.